It's that time, folks. Matt Derrick is with us from ChiefsDigest.com because we have to not only talk about beating the Denver Broncos, we're also going to get into what can improve, where, and how do they attack the Los Angeles, Las Vegas, whoever they were, Raiders. That's coming up next on Locked On Chiefs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Every time I think I have that right. Every time I just get going, it is what it is. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing well, Ryan. How about yourself?
I'm just here to entertain you. It's all good.
You do that on a daily and weekly basis, man. Come on.
At least I'm not cussing yet. That's okay, folks. Welcome. Thank you for making us your first listen. This is Locked On Chiefs. He's Matt Derrick, the guy that's really in charge. You just don't see all the strings. After all of this, the expert that you are, a couple days removed, does this surprise you that for all the coming together that the defense has done, we're still talking about the offense not getting going? It seems to be not only our conversation, but it's everywhere in the national media today.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me because I think as long as this offense is not, percolating at what everyone expects and Mahomes isn't putting up the kind of numbers that everyone expects, then yeah, I mean, I think that's going to continue to be a topic of conversation. Topic of conversation should probably be more focused on the defense right now and how well it's playing and whether or not it's for real. I mean, I think I'm about I think it was I 68% sold the last time we talked? I might be like 73% sold now. I'm getting there. I still need to see one more big test. I mean, I need this defense to go up against a Darth Vader and survive and see where they're at. But yeah, I mean, until this offense, demolishes the Raiders again with 41 points or something, I think we're going to get this conversation about where this offense is.
I think that makes sense to me. And, I'm here to accommodate you. They have a date with Vader at Mustafar, whatever his fortress is. That said, we'll get into that game coming up. But I think it's very keen, and I've taken a lot of flack this week about how dare I concentrate on Mahomes' idiosyncrasies and maybe not playing up to his expected level versus all the other things on the offense that aren't going right. But I'll explain this to the folks out there, and then you tell me if I'm crazy. At the end of the day, all the drops, all the misread routes, all the things that are quote unquote hiccups. The reason that I talk about Mahomes is because the two things that we thought were going to be an issue, him getting flushed out of the pocket and generally not having any protection, have pretty much been accomplished here. This offensive line is playing well. He doesn't have to leave the pocket unless he chooses to last, 3 games. And yet these things are continually happening. So for me, that's what brings me back to what's he doing differently? Am I off base? Should this not be about Patrick?
No, I don't think you actually are off base. I mean, I think that the Chiefs, by the comparison we've liked to have made, the Chiefs are a sports car. And, that's what they are. So when something goes wrong and they're in the shop, it's usually not just one little thing. It's usually a bunch of things that have gone wrong and need to be fixed and made or just tweaked. Because I don't think this offense is necessarily broken. I can't put them into that category. I mean, if they were putting up 3 points a game or something, I would say that they're broken. But they're not. They're not that. I mean, I just that they're not firing on all cylinders. And I think that the blame goes in a lot of different directions. I mean, I think that there's a lot of parts of this offense that are just not in sync right now. It's not any one thing, but Mahomes is part of it for sure. He owns a part of it. I mean, it's not just a matter of, the guys around him are committing penalties and making drops. I don't think that he's been as sharp as he's been in the past. And I think that his decision-making hasn't been as sharp as it's been in the past. It's odd because, we are so used to Mahomes just simply getting better every single year. That even in years when his numbers are, and frankly, he's always going to have a tough time matching those 2018 numbers. Those things were off the charts. But every year we've talked about the fact that even though the numbers are not as good as 2018, he's been continued to get better and better. This is the first year where I think I can objectively look at Mahomes, and I have a hard time finding the area where he's better than he was a year ago. And, are there areas where he's worse? I don't know if I can make that case necessarily. I mean, there's probably a few questions that you can ask. But he hasn't necessarily improved. And if that's the case, then yeah, I mean, I think that there's, reason to have some questions and criticisms.
And it's something that's got to get turned around in the end. Unless I'm wrong, I still feel like this is a Super Bowl contender. I don't see enough of dysfunction to make me think that they can't power through the playoffs and win ugly and get to that game and come out with a victory. It might not look like what we've seen in the past, but I still think it's within the realm of possibility. Am I putting rose-colored glasses on here?
I mean, I don't think you are, because I've been asked several times, today, who are the best teams in the AFC? I mean, what's your power ranking as far as, where the best teams are right now? And I can't necessarily take the Patriots off that top spot right now. I mean, they've got the record for it. The defense has been playing well. They're on a roll. I mean, I'd have a hard time saying anybody other than the Patriots right now. And
3 passes, Matt. 3 passes.
Well, I would have probably done the same thing in that weather. You wouldn't have even thrown 3 passes last night in that weather.
I know, but I'm used to being the crazy one.
You'd have just given the ball to the fullback all night long.
Right?
I mean, I have a hard time saying it, but then I'm at, okay, who's the second best team? I can't say the Titans without Derrick Henry. I can't say the Ravens, especially with the injuries and the close calls that they've had. I mean, at this point, with the way the Chiefs defense is playing, I think the Chiefs are the second best team in the AFC. Real problem is going to be, I think that probably the best teams in the league right now are all over the NFC side. The AFC is just a mix of everybody. But I think right now the Chiefs are the second best team. And if that's the case, then they've got a great chance of making it to the Super Bowl.
Well, they have a couple of hurdles. We're going to talk about them. They got one out of the way that I want to talk about where it goes from there and what that tells us. We'll get to that coming up next. It's that time of year again when all eyes turn to football and the NFL gets back on the gridiron. As always, BetOnline.ag is your number one place for college and pro games to get you into the action. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests, including the biggest online contest, $500,000 NFL mega contest, as well as the $200,000 NFL Survivor contest. They're both open now at BetOnline.ag. Head to the website, use your device, whatever it is, and you'll get a 100% welcome bonus. Take advantage of it and get in on the opening day super promo. $25 bet. Even if you lose, you get your money back. BetOnline is the fastest, easiest way to get all of your bets into the action, football and everything else. Use our promo code Locked On over at betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. Every game's a big game at this point for the Kansas City Chiefs. And can we talk about the big game? Super Bowl 56 at SoFi is less than 100 days away. And On Location, the official hospitality partner for the NFL, is the only place where you can score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package. Select your exact seats and choose from experiences that feature exclusive pregame celebrations, NFL legends, a 5-star hotel, and food from chefs like Wolfgang Puck. All you got to do is visit locationexp.com/SB56 for more information, or you can search Super Bowl On Location. You should find it that way. That's onlocationexp.com/SB56, or search Super Bowl On Location. Have a Super Bowl feeling about this one. Let's get there with On Location. So, Matt, going into this last Denver game, Denver's defense has been not only, the only leg to stand on in the Rocky Mountains this year, but it's also been one amongst the league that has had some swag. They've been playing well, and Chiefs were able to, yes, it was a grind, but they got it done. They were able, I think the most undertold story this week is just how well, I thought it was going to be week 5. I thought it was going to be week 6. Now it's week 13, but this offensive line has come together, including the guys that were having some trouble making the adjustment, particularly Orlando Brown. Bradley Chubb was nearly a non-factor in that ball game. And does that speak to that age-old continuity, chemistry amongst that starting 5, even though Wiley was in there at the right tackle spot? Or is this just more the maturation of learning the offense, this year's version of it?
Yeah, and I think it's one thing I have not heard anybody talk about yet is how well the offensive line played on Sunday night. And remember, Andy Heck wasn't on the sideline, due to the COVID-19 protocols. And, assistant offensive line coach Corey Matai was filling in. Hey, was there a little bit of, hey, everybody realized that they needed to kind of mind their P's and Q's and play a little bit harder, knowing that they didn't have Heck out there, doing, the usual adjustments and analysis that they would normally have? Maybe. But I thought Andrew Wiley played really well. I mean, he's been consistently not a superstar necessarily on the right side, but he's been serviceable. I mean, absolutely. I mean, he's filled in admirably while he's had to, and everybody else has just been machines. I mean, you're just seeing Trey Smith get better and better every week. You're seeing Orlando Brown, continue to improve to the point where you just don't hear his name mentioned that much anymore. Joe Thuney is, as I said earlier in the season, he's a left guard Terminator sent from the future. I mean, he's just a machine. I can't say anything more about Joe Thuney. I mean, it's just like injuries don't slow him down. Nothing seems to slow him down, and rarely makes a mistake. So yeah, I mean, I think individually the parts are playing really well. I think that as a group, they're still melding a little bit. I mean, I think you still see some little tweaks here and there that they need to learn everybody's idiosyncrasies, and it still fits in with Mahomes needing to learn everybody's. But it's improved, massively improved, especially from the first 4 weeks of the season. So, I mean, I think that offensive line group can only continue to improve because, like I said, I mean, I think that at this point, the individual sums are actually pretty high, and I'm not sure that they play as well as a group as the individual number put together, but I think they're going to get there and that's just a matter of time and chemistry.
Well, and the fact that you have two guys that have been all pro or Pro Bowl at the very least, I can't remember Orlando's credentials, but the fact that when we talk about the offensive line in the last 6 weeks, it's the rookie that we're talking about. It's Creed Humphrey in the middle that always gets the attention at this point because he's playing at such a level. I know there's not going to be animosity amongst the guys that he's getting the accolades, but the fact that you're talking about the rookie, that kind of lets everybody else fly under the radar, take some of the pressure off and just kind of let it all come together. Could this be a team that, like the defensive front in 19, could this be a group that really hits their stride just as we hit the postseason?
It really could. I mean, yeah, because I think that at this point we've seen it trending in that direction. I mean, go back and just remember in the first, quarter of the season. I mean, how many concerns were there about Orlando Brown? Who has a concern about Orlando Brown right now? I mean, anybody? I haven't heard anything for a while. Because I think it's just a matter that he's shown that he's much more comfortable. I mean, he's improved on the things that he was having some problems with early on. He's getting some help from the other guys. I mean, they're figuring out slowly how to work together. I'm still seeing a lot of just one-on-one victories, and that's not a problem. I mean, when you got guys can win one-on-one victories, that's great. And against the Broncos, I mean, they were collectively blowing some holes open. And I think that's just going to, only continue to improve. And if that offensive line's able to do that, I mean, if they're able to as a individual, and it's not just simply Clyde Edwards-Helaire running behind a hole that Creed Humphrey has opened up, but is able to run through a lane that 3 or 4 guys have helped to create, then that's going to make everything better. I mean, the more that run game can become a threat, it's going to take a lot of pressure off Mahomes. And that's some of what I think that they certainly need to loosen up some of the defenses that they're seeing is just, not necessarily don't hear me and say, I'm Matt saying run the football more. I'm not saying that, but if the Chiefs can run the football more efficiently and better, that's all they have to do. I mean, that's a key to some of the things that they want to get done.
I'll say it, run the ball more. Anyway, I think the scariest thing for opposing defenses right now is the efficiency with which the duo and the zone combos that look like duo are having on the fronts that are supposed to be there to protect them. And like you said, it's lane-like the last few weeks. The run game's there. The offensive line is there. What's not there is a consistent number 3 passing target. We've seen Darryl have a day. We've seen a couple of guys get some opportunities. With the snap count that they gave Byron Pringle, 10 over the next closest in Demarcus Robinson. Does that signal that they're going to give him an extended look? And after his performance with the drop and everything, do you think that he should have another one where he gets to be the guy that gets the most looks after that?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty telling that for the most part, Andy Reid kind of just dismissed the drops a little bit. I mean, if anything, especially on Monday, I think after the game on Sunday, he was a little bit more pointed with the drops, but with talking to us on Monday, I think he was a little bit more forgiving of the drops on Pringle. But that's been a trend. I mean, if it's not even just Sunday night, but really the last few weeks, if you look at, that wide receiver rotation, I mean, there's some consistency to it. Byron Pringle has been moving up the charts. I mean, he is now the number 2 wide receiver in the depth chart. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, he's the guy who's been getting starts. He's been getting the most snaps. He's been getting the targets. All of that adds up that's the guy that they trust the most. Will the drops erode that a little bit? I'm not sold on that. I think that he's still going to get his looks, and I think he's probably still the number 2 guy behind Hill right now. Robinson's number 3. I mean, that's the guy that they trust the most after that. But Hardman, I think between not only just the playing time on offense, but losing his punt return job, I think those two things are connected. I mean, whether that is just simply trying to send a message to Mecole Hardman that they want to see a more focused and better performance and, trying to motivate him that way, or it's simply at this point, they've decided where they're at. When you get 4 weeks of less and less work, that's not like Andy Reid was trying to paint it on Monday as, just a matter of game planning and who was in that week. That's a trend. I mean, that's where it's at. And the interesting thing, the other part of it is where Josh Gordon is, because, he was getting a lot of work the last few weeks. He got up considerably less on Sunday night. And the one consistency is that he's just never gotten any targets. And that's been a bit peculiar to me. I mean, I thought that the Chiefs might try to force his way into the action a little bit more, but they haven't. I mean, they haven't really designed anything specifically for him, which they've done for some guys in the past. I mean, they've done some things to try and get a Mecole Hardman and going. Even a couple of weeks ago, I mean, good grief, they geared the first 15 towards getting Travis Kelce going, but they've never done that with Gordon. That's kind of surprised me a little bit. But no, I mean, I think at this point, that's the wide receiver rotation. That's your depth chart right now. Pringle, Robinson, Gordon, Hardman. And I'm not told that it's going to change anytime soon.
Well, and I would think for Gordon's situation, I think you could say the exact same thing about Noah Gray. It looked like he was trending up there for a week or two and then slammed back down to earth. I don't know what the situation is there, but that's what's been concerning me along with the positives. Is there anything from that Denver game that I'm just not paying enough attention to? Any takeaways that I've missed?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, and I will say that I was thinking about this during watching the Ravens game, because that was what was on in the press box right before the Chiefs game, at the end of the Ravens Steelers game. None of these guys that the Chiefs have at wide receiver are Sammy Watkins. I mean, and that is, I really wonder what this Chiefs offense would have looked like this year with Sammy Watkins back. I don't know that they would have had as many of the problems that they've had, because, even though Watkins was not the 1,000-yard, 12 touchdown guy in Kansas City, this offense was always better when he was healthy and on the field the last few years. And I think I think they really miss having Sammy Watkins, because as much as there's lots of things I like about Pringle and hey, Hardman's got a lot of potential. I think Demarcus, is who he is. I don't think he's a number 2 guy. Mm-hmm. Sammy Watkins is a number 2 guy with a bullet. Yeah. And the difference between having him on the field and the other options this year, I have a hard time not drawing a line between that and the success of this offense.
Especially when you see him make his magic in the back of the end zone for Lamar, like he did this week. For Sammy, it's never been about volume, because you never know when he's going to be injured. But when he's there, he has an impact. And that makes perfect sense to me. And maybe that's something they can rectify in the offseason. We'll have to wait till then, in my opinion, to get there. But we have to get on, folks. It is Raiders week. As of now, we're turning the page just like that, because I know you guys are looking forward to it. And Matt and I are going to discuss what the expectation is, because I think we might have a few things that we want to see and expect to see that maybe not everybody does. So we'll get to that coming up next. You got to love the holidays, all the food, the treats, and plenty of them. But you might want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. It's a perfect time for a Built Bar. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. They taste incredible. We've gone over them. We have all the new ones, blueberry muffin. You have the chunk cookie dough. You got to love that, as well as my favorite, coconut. You got to love the coconut brownie chunk. It is the best one out there. And feast or something delicious, and that's how you feel about these bars. You need to have one of those as well. Every single one is about 130 to 150 calories. Only 4 grams of sugar and plenty of protein, upwards of 15 grams per bar, versus a slice of pie that's over 300 calories. You got to get into this. And this is a just as good tasting and a better way to eat, especially around your holidays. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, and high protein, covered in 100% real chocolate. Built is the great option whenever you're hungry, whether it's Thanksgiving weekend or all the way through Christmas and even New Year's. They're all coming here right now, and it's time for a Built bar or two. All the new surprises, all the new flavors that are always coming out every few days, it feels like. There's plenty to check out over at Built.com. If you use the code LOCKED15, you're going to end up getting 15% off of your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Now, you and I, we talked after the last Raiders game. And we talked a little bit post-game about this last contest and everything. And what we're seeing is the difference. Now, this is still an organization that maybe Andy has a grudge against. This is still the group that did the lap around the stadium and whole 9 yards. And just because you beat them last time doesn't mean that demon is exercised at this point. Do you get the feeling is this still something that's on their minds? Is this still a grudge at this point?
Yeah, I think it is, and and it's probably a little bit less of a grudge for Andy now that John Gruden is not there with the Raiders. But funny thing is, I was actually had cause to bring up the 2019 schedule earlier today. I was looking at it because I was actually asked, if there's some similarities between the Chiefs' offense now and the end of 2019 when the defense started cooking a little bit in 2019. And there is. I mean, the offense was not nearly as explosive there late in the season when the defense really got going. I mean, they were playing some pretty complimentary football, and it wasn't like the Chiefs were racing down the field and putting up 40 points every week. They were putting up 24, 23, 23, 26, and 40. And then in the middle of that was the Raiders game. They blew them out 40-9. You had to blow out earlier. I mean, I think there's still, it's not, we've talked about it. Nobody in the NFL cares about rivalries anymore, players and coaches for the most part. Fans, it means a lot more to the fans than it does to the players.
Right.
But this game still has some juice. And you're right. I mean, even I think there's even some things that came out of that Raiders game that, hey, they're going to be trying to use as some motivations and slights this week against the Chiefs. Yeah,
as they should. That's part of the fun of a rivalry like this. And I've always been reluctant to name one rivalry for this organization, but it's starting, at least in this current era, to look like that's what it is. But what does that mean for how they go about attacking it? For me, it means that Andy takes the reins back, and we're going to see more than just the first 15 be Reid-derived, because I think he still has a point to make. I think he wants to do what he did last time. And if they do have to adjust, well, let's cover that first. Do you think Andy wants to run this week?
I think Andy does. I mean, we'll see how it all comes out and everything. But I mean, that one Raiders game is the one game that stands out with everything else that we've seen from the Chiefs offense in the last really 6 to 8 weeks. That's the one game where after the first series that they were using the same concepts and really were building on what they did in the first series and continued it on that theme on through the game. Since then, I mean, the Chiefs for the most part have been a completely different team on the first drive and the first 15 versus the rest of the game. It's almost as if they're completely disconnected. I imagine this week that you're going to see a little bit more continuity. I mean, I think that there's going to be a bigger focus on making sure that they don't just go down and put up a touchdown on the Raiders at 7-0, and then it's 3 field goals the rest of the way. I think there's going to be a little bit more focus on getting into the end zone.
The big question for me becomes, did Gus Bradley learn his lesson? Or is he going to play that cover 3 and just let him eat him alive again? If he does change, do you think that helps the Raiders' cause, or does that play into what Mahomes has been seeing the majority of the season with too high?
If he changes what he does, I mean, I think it's to their advantage. I mean, I think that they have to adapt or die. He can't do what they did, back in week 10 because it didn't work. They've got to change it up. So no, I mean, I would be very surprised if Gus Bradley doesn't change his tune this time around. I think he has to. I mean, he's had some success before, and so I think that he can hit on it. But you gotta look at what worked and what didn't work, and and certainly the Chiefs are gonna have to come up. You come up with some new wrinkles because I think that the Raiders will be trying to change things up. If they don't, then yeah, I mean I think that the Chiefs will just go back to Week 10 playbook and run it all over again.
Well, if they do exercise that and make some changes, the one matchup that I think we have to be concerned about, even though Andrew Wiley has played very well since the last time they played the Raiders, he's been in a couple of games, held his own. This reminds me very much of last season when they went and played the Saints and he had a nice game against a quality defensive end. And I said, hey, they're fine for the Super Bowl. Is Max Crosby better now than he was a few weeks ago? And do you think that he has the advantage over Wiley in this second matchup this season?
I mean, as well as Wiley, I thought held his own against Crosby last time around. I mean, I think you have to probably give Crosby the advantage this time. I mean, I think he's going to be a little bit more motivated. But again, I mean, remember, these two go way back. I mean, they know each other pretty well. And in that kind of situation, when you know a guy as well as those two guys do, I give the advantage to the offensive guy most of the time. I mean, that's something that can continue around. So remember, Andrew Wiley is probably more familiar with Max Crosby than anybody else in the league, going back to college and their relationship and everything. So I think that plays into his advantage. Now, hey, is Crosby a better player? Yeah. I mean, he's more athletically gifted and talented. And I think even Andrew will tell you that. But in this situation, as well as they know each other, I'm going to give Wiley at least the advantage in holding his own. Particularly at least because he's got a track record of doing it, and holding his own is all that the Chiefs are going to be asking him to do. I mean, they're not asking him to dominate him and pancake him all day long. They're just asking him to do what he's been doing the last few weeks, and that's been, like I said, being manageable and serviceable against some pretty good pass rushers.
It's about what I'm looking for too. In my one long-term fantasy league, you guys have always heard about the keeper dynasty thing. My opponent this week, a longtime friend of mine, decided to name his team, I wish it was just a little bit Waller. And that has to come to fruition this week. So
that does.
Down with the Raiders. I think it's going to be fireworks, to tell you the truth. So, folks, let us know what you think. Go read Matt Derrick at ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, thanks for all the time today.
Thanks, Ryan. Take care, everybody.
Everyone have a great day. We'll be back with the preview inside intel from Chris tomorrow. And then I will give you the predictions and all you need to know on Friday. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you then.